Hi guys, for the past couple of weeks, probably since Tengku Maimun's tenure as the chief judge of the country ended earlier this month, the talk about how the judicial integrity of the country has been compromised, has been raging like nobody's business, at least among some segment of our society. Honestly speaking, I think the issue is mostly raging amongst the likes of the politicians, highbrow media, lawyers, political analysts, and academics. A lecturer I met last week was livid about the subject. A professor that I know keeps forwarding me doomsday message after doomsday message about how Anwar's days are numbered because of the issue. Day in, day out, he's been sending me these messages. But when I asked anybody else, I just met a couple of restaurant owners a few days ago, none of them even knew that the issue was raging, much less cared about it. Now, what's this issue about judicial integrity and independence is all about? If you ask me, that is causing the likes of Rafizi Ramli to rebel against his own party and the Bar Council to organize a walk for justice last Monday, 2 days ago, I think. 2 days ago. Well, to put it simply, I will just ask you to accept that there is this thing called judicial integrity and independence. Just think of it as a thing. And it is an important component of something called the judiciary. Because without it, the judiciary will be reduced to a bunch of people who wear an odd-looking costume instead of an institution that upholds the nation. Now, we call ourselves Malaysians. And the reason we call ourselves Malaysians is because there is something called Malaysia, a self-evident truth. And this thing called Malaysia is made up of certain concepts, institutions, and symbols, like the border of our country, like the flag, the national song, and the constitution, and yes, also the judiciary. As a matter of fact, the judiciary, along with the royalty, the parliament, and the executive, also the judiciary, are like the four legs of a chair, which holds the country. When judicial independence and integrity is compromised, we can think of it as one of the legs of the chair called Malaysia being weakened and undermined. When it is weakened, the concept of Malaysia itself becomes weakened and undermined. And when the concept of Malaysia is weakened and undermined, theoretically at least, our identity, our ability to call ourselves as Malaysians will likely also be weakened and undermined. Although I have to say that I doubt that 99% of Malaysians see it in this way. Just that 1%, like I mentioned earlier, academics, lawyers, intelligentsia, these are the only guys that probably feel it that way. Now, who is it that everybody from Rafizi to the Bar Council to my professor and lecturer friends are blaming for the weakening of the chair that we call Malaysia? Well, I will just reply the question in one word. Just one word is enough. Anwar Ibrahim, our current Prime Minister. None of them are saying it loud and clearly, of course. Instead, they're just speaking about it euphemistically and in a roundabout fashion by saying things like they are upset about the state of the judicial integrity and independence in the country, or that they are disappointed that the promise of institutional reform made by the government is not being met. But I will go out on a limb and say what they actually mean. Is that they suspect that Anwar is purposely weakening the judicial integrity and independence, and they want him to stop. As to why they are all accusing or suspecting Anwar of trying to weaken judicial independence and integrity, I will just explain it simply by saying that they probably think that Anwar is doing it because it benefits him to do so. The weaker the judicial independence and integrity, the stronger Anwar's power and position become. The strengthening of Anwar's power and position is in turn making a lot of people feel that he is becoming a dictator, and a big part of why they are so opposed to Anwar's to the allegation that Anwar is impinging on judicial integrity and independence is because they don't want him to be a dictator. Now, is there a truth in their claim that Anwar is impinging on judicial integrity and independence or trying to be a dictator? If you ask me about the dictator part, I have long said that Anwar is going to not going to be able to institute the reforms that he wants to institute, or at least that he claims that he wants to institute. I'm also not sure whether he actually means it or not. Let's say the reforms of reformasi. If he really wants to institute it, at some point he will have to assume dictatorial powers. I say this because I honestly don't think that reform can be carried out in the country via democratic means. And I've been saying this in multiple articles in the span of the last 2 years. I think I'm the first person who have actually said that Anwar will probably have to assume dictatorial powers at some point. Anyway, but if you were to ask me whether there are specific allegations that Anwar is trying to consolidate dictatorial powers by interfering in the matters of the appointment of top judges in the country in a way that severely compromises judicial integrity and independence, my answer is going to be more analytical. It's a little bit trickier. Now, why I say that is because, you see, I think that our judicial integrity and independence has been compromised for a long time, since 1988 itself. That's more than 30 years ago. That's about more than 30 years ago. When 1988, why? Because that's when the Lord President of the Supreme Court, Tun Salleh Abas, was sacked from his post, and the status of the judges and the courts was reduced when the title Lord President and Supreme Court was changed to the less prestigious sounding Chief Judge and Federal Court. Title itself, from the title itself, you can see that the prestige and the strength of the judiciary has been compromised. Since Tun Salleh Abbas's removal, other cases like the widely panned trial of Anwar Ibrahim in the late 90s, as well as the VK Lingam scandal in 2008, suggest to us that the judicial integrity and independence has been continuously eroded for more than 30 years. That's been eroded because these cases show us that the judiciary is subject to high influence from external parties. This is actually quite well documented already. There's nothing controversial about this. Considering that the allegation of the judicial independence and integrity has been ongoing since 1988, I can only say that if it's even true that Anwar is infringing on judicial independence and integrity today, as he is being accused of, he's probably only guilty of infringing on something that was already infringed way before he came into the picture. To tell you the truth, the accusation that Anwar is infringing on the independence and integrity of the judiciary reminds me of the story of Arjuna killing Karna in the epic Mahabharata. After Arjuna had killed Karna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he would find to his horror that Karna was actually his elder brother, unable to accept the fact that he had killed his own elder brother. Arjuna would lament his deeds to Krishna. Now, in the epic Mahabharata, Krishna is portrayed as the omnipresent God who can see everything. Now, when he heard Arjuna's lament, Krishna would dismiss Arjuna's guilt by saying that, hey, just because you put an arrow through Karna, it does not mean it is you that killed them. Karna, Krishna would say, was long dead even before he stepped into the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He was killed first by his teacher, who cursed him that he would not be able to fully utilize his skills when he needed them the most. After that, he was also killed by a curse of a priest, if I'm not mistaken, who said that his chariot will be stuck in the mud in the heat of the battle. After that, he was killed also by the driver of his chariot, who kept demotivating him throughout his battle with Arjuna. Also, Krishna would say that Karna was killed by their mother, Kunti, who extracted from Karna a promise that severely limited his ability to use his full powers in the battlefield. Now, there is a few more reason that Krishna would state why Karna was killed, but that is not important. The point here is, like Krishna, according to Krishna, Karna was already 3/4 dead even before he met Arjuna in the battlefield. If Arjuna had put an arrow in Karna's heart, he had merely killed a man that was already dead. Likewise, I feel that even if it's true that Anwar is now shooting an arrow into the heart of the judicial independence, as his critics allege, it's important to realize the patient was already on life support way before Anwar had even strung his bows. The integrity of and the independence of the judiciary was first infringed more than 30 years ago when Tun Salleh Abas was sacked. All the lawyers and the judicial officers infringed on it further when they accepted the infringement with a half-baked protest, and probably even gave it their silent consent by shrugging their shoulders about the affair after a while and going back to work as usual. After that, there are cases like I'm just gonna name two, like Anwar's sham trial in the late 90s, and also like the VK Lingam scandal in 2007 that further infringed it. After being infringed by all these incidents, if Anwar can now stand accused of infringing the judicial integrity and independence today, to be fair, we have to accept that all he is doing is infringing on something that has long been infringed, even before he infringed it. So think about that, yeah, guys. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today on this episode. As always, stay safe and have a good day. See you in the next episode, guys. Take care.